Hello and welcome back. I'm Dr. Lori Williams. I help individuals and corporations to create lasting mental and emotional wellness through holistic practices. And today I want to talk to you about the downfalls of being an empath and why you may struggle with setting healthy boundaries in your relationships. So first and foremost, you as an empath will feel things very deeply. Now, this is not an excuse or a reason to not set boundaries. It's actually even more necessary that you have boundaries in place. It's around certain people. Not all of your relationships are going to require boundaries. But being an empath, although it can feel like a curse at times, it is actually very much a blessing as well. It is a gift. And I tell my clients all the time that essentially, if you're not an empath, you're typically going to be a narcissist. So hopefully, knowing that, you can find some semblance of gratitude for being an empath. So feeling things very deeply, not wanting to have conflict is another reason why you may struggle with putting healthy boundaries in place. Empaths tend to overthink. They tend to be people pleasers, and they're worried about how the other person's what they're gonna say, how they're gonna feel. They again want to avoid any kind of conflict. But the truth of the matter is that you should never have to tolerate mistreatment and disrespect because out of fear of how someone else is going to feel or what they're going to say. A healthy person, if you're putting a boundary in place, and a healthy person would say to you, thank you for letting me know. Like, thank you for telling me that. It's the people that aren't necessarily mentally or emotionally healthy that are going to have the issues. So kind of keep that in mind when you are setting your boundaries, that your boundaries are 100% for you and they're not for other people. It's you teaching yourself what you're willing to tolerate and what you're not. So the next thing is that an empath will tend to find themselves taking responsibility for other people's reactions, responses, thoughts, all of that kind of stuff. And the truth of it is that that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to set the boundary, like I said, for you, how the other person responds, what they say. Even if they're sitting there crying in front of you, you can have empathy for them, like feel bad for them, but don't feel sorry for them. Sympathy and empathy are two very, very different things. And a lot of times empaths get stuck in the sympathy aspect of it. And that does not help them. And it also does not help the other person either. So make sure that you are very clear on what is your responsibility in the situation and what is the other person's responsibility. And make sure that you are not taking on things that do not belong to you. Empaths will always struggle with guilt. They will always feel like they did something wrong in setting the boundary. They did something wrong because they may have upset the other person. Like I said, how the other person responds is not up to you. That is not your responsibility. They may just be showing you their own triggers. They may be showing you their own wounds. And like I said, it's okay to have empathy for that person, and you definitely should. But having empathy does not allow for you to have guilt. Sympathy allows you to have guilt, and you don't want to feel sorry for the other person because nothing good happens there. Nothing good happens with guilt either. You standing up for yourself, you setting healthy boundaries for yourself should be a very core foundation, first step kind of thing in any of your relationships. So you have nothing to feel guilty about as long as you're doing what is right for you and not intentionally hurting other people. If you go into a conversation and you know that everything that you're saying or have said to that person was not hurtful, it was not, you're not demeaning them in any way, shape, or form, you're not making them be the bad guy, then you have done nothing wrong. You do not want to hurt the other person. Empaths typically don't want to hurt the other person, but you want to make sure that you're not getting hurt in the process too. And that's why boundaries are so important and why they're needed in our relationships. Thanks so much for joining me. I'll see you back here next time.